There was a spider web on my headstone. Thick, fresh, shimmering in the early morning fog like it belonged there more than I ever did. The letters on the stone were cleaner than I expected, polished, almost proud. Harlan H. Greaves. Beloved husband. Loyal to the end. Loyal. To the end. I laughed. Out loud. I think I scared the groundskeeper. 3 years. That's how long I was dead. 3 years of silence, shadows, and government paperwork so messy it made resurrection feel illegal. And in those 3 years, she forgot me. No. Worse, she replaced me. Lorelei married someone else within 5 weeks of the funeral. They didn't even bury me. She opted for cremation, said it was what Harlan would have wanted. Really? Funny, because what Harlan actually wanted was to retire to Oregon with his wife and a grumpy golden retriever. Not be turned into a jar of discount fireplace ash while his widow planned a destination wedding with her coworker. And yes, I know about the coworker. Everyone at her job knew. It wasn't a secret, just a matter of timing. Convenient. How grief looks a lot like lust in a black dress. But I wasn't angry. That's the strange part. I was curious. What does a man do when he finds out he's been mourned, forgotten, replaced, and the world didn't skip a beat? He goes home, quietly, carefully, and watches. So I did. I stood outside the house I built with my bare hands and saw children playing in the front yard. One of them called her new husband Dad. There was a new porch swing. My old truck was gone. The bird feeder I installed was now a security camera. I watched Lorelei laugh through the kitchen window. That same tilted smile she once gave me when she lied about just needing a weekend alone. She burned our memories and called it closure. I didn't come back to ruin her life. I came back because something didn't add up. The fire, the funeral, the money that disappeared, the way the insurance payout magically cleared in record time. I came back because I needed to know. Did she bury me by accident or by design? I didn't knock. I just stood there across the street, behind the withered hedge, hidden in the fog, watching them eat dinner through the wide-open blinds like it was a scene in a sitcom. Lorelei sat at the head of the table, hair shorter now, dyed darker, trying to look younger, I guess. She laughed at something the man next to her said, my chair. He was sitting in my chair. The same one I hand-sanded and stained because she said the store-bought ones had no soul. The kid, maybe 4 or 5, was singing something off-key and messy with a spoon in his mouth, and Lorelei leaned over and wiped his face with a smile. The man kissed her temple. The lights were warm. The house looked safe, like it never held a funeral, like it never lost anyone at all. There was no picture of me anywhere. No urn. No folded flag. No memorial candle. Nothing. It was like I never existed. And yet, across town, at Ridgefield Cemetery, a stone said otherwise. A legal document said otherwise. Bank records showed a deposit of $580,000 in life insurance, just 13 days after my death. Odd how fast that moved, considering how long it took them to find my body. Or rather, to identify the body they thought was mine. A charred mess in a car wreck on Route 79, no dental records, just a wallet, my wallet. The one that went missing a week before that. I replayed it in my head every night since I got back. The questions spun like ceiling fans in a burning room. Did she plant the wallet? Did she see a chance and take it? Or was it all one terrible coincidence? Perfectly timed for a woman who already had one foot out the door and another in someone else's bed? But then came the part that really messed with me. She had me cremated. Fast. Too fast. Like she didn't want a second opinion. Like she didn't want anyone asking if the teeth didn't match or if the body wasn't quite the right height. She refused an autopsy. She insisted on immediate cremation because, according to the funeral director's public statement, Harlan would have wanted peace, not more pain. I never once said I wanted to be cremated. Not once. That night, I couldn't sleep. I rented a motel under a fake name. Not hard when your own government still thinks your ashes in an overpriced urn collecting dust on a fireplace that no longer exists. I lay there on a mattress that smelled like mildew and bleach, staring at the ceiling with a question pounding louder than my heartbeat. What if she didn't just move on? What if she helped me disappear? And if that's true, what exactly am I walking back into? I followed her. Not in a dramatic movie stalker way. No trench coat or binoculars. Just a hoodie, a used car, and a lot of silence. She dropped the kid off at daycare in the mornings, the same place we once talked about sending our future children. I used to imagine little lunchboxes with dinosaurs and handwritten notes that said, "You're going to do great today, champ." Now I was watching another man's child carry the fantasy I once built. Lorelei would stop for coffee at the same cafe on Chestnut and Main. She still ordered the same thing: oat milk, cinnamon sprinkle, 2 pumps of vanilla. She even still tapped her cup twice on the counter after the barista handed it to her, like a nervous tick. Some things never changed, but others did. She wore less jewelry now. No trace of our wedding ring. Not even the chain she used to wear when she claimed her hands were swelling. She looked freer, and not in a good way. In the way someone does when a weight has been lifted and you realize you were the weight. At one point, she sat outside on the patio with her new husband, Jason. I finally learned his name. Jason Ellison, realtor, recently promoted, drives a Lexus, calls Lorelei Lowe, which I found weirdly intimate and offensive at the same time. I called her Lore. Only me. And now, he did it too, without even knowing the weight of it. They sat there laughing about something on his phone. He reached out, touched her wrist, and she smiled with her whole face. Not a polite smile. Not a tired, married smile. A real one. A smile I hadn't seen since, maybe our second anniversary. My stomach twisted. And then she looked up, right at me, across the street. I had been leaning against a lamppost, pretending to look at my phone, wearing sunglasses and letting my beard do most of the disguise work. Still, she looked right at me. Eyes steady, expression flat. Not even a flicker of recognition. I froze. Had she seen me before? Had she known I was alive? Or was I just another face on the sidewalk now? Another passing stranger with tired eyes and too many regrets? Jason leaned in and kissed her cheek. She didn't look away, but I did. Because for the first time since I came back, a terrible new thought began creeping into my mind, cold and calculated like a spider behind the curtains. What if she didn't mourn me because she didn't believe I was gone? What if this wasn't just about insurance, or freedom, or lust? What if Lorelei knew I was alive, and hoped I'd stay dead anyway? I didn't want to break into my own house, but it wasn't really mine anymore, was it? Still, the thought of stepping back inside clawed at me for days. I didn't care about confronting her, not yet. I didn't care about Jason, or the kid, or the new patio furniture. I just needed to know if anything of me was left. Something real. A photo. A letter. Proof that I hadn't imagined 6 years of my life with her. Proof that I wasn't the ghost in this story. So I waited. Jason took the kid to a swimming class on Saturdays. I remembered that because Lorelei used to say she hated chlorine, said it stuck in her hair for days. I figured she'd stay behind, but this time, she went too. All 3 of them. A happy little family pulling out of the driveway in a black SUV that used to be our anniversary goal. I had an hour. I still remembered the back window latch. It never locked right. I popped it open with a rusted grill brush I found behind the neighbor's fence. I slid in quietly, avoiding the doggy cam I spotted near the bookshelf. They upgraded, but not smart enough. It wasn't live, just motion recorded. I kept my face away anyway. Habit. The house smelled different. Brighter. Cleaner. Cinnamon and lemon instead of my cologne and her lavender shampoo. New furniture, new colors, no trace of us. Even the damn wall where we marked our height in pencil, gone. Painted over. I went straight to the crawl space under the stairs. That's where I kept the things she didn't like displayed. Old journals, boxes of childhood stuff, newspaper clippings from my time as a firefighter. She always said clutter made her anxious. But she let me have that one spot. My shadow corner. The panel still slid loose. I pulled it open and reached into the back. Dust. Nails. An old flashlight. One dead spider. But the box was still there. I dragged it out and flipped it open, expecting mold, maybe some mouse damage. But instead, I found something I never expected. Everything was gone. Every letter. Every photo. Every document. In its place was something else entirely. A small, sealed envelope, yellowed and worn, with my full name on it. Harlan Howard Greaves. Written in her handwriting. I hesitated. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a note. Only 5 words. If you're alive, don't be. I stared at it for a full minute. No date. No explanation. Just that. And that's when it hit me. She knew. Not just suspected, knew. She had known I wasn't in that car. She had known, somehow, somewhere in her bones, that I hadn't died. And instead of praying, or searching, or hoping, She left me a message meant to kill a part of me worse than my body ever could. She wanted the dead man to stay dead. I sat there, alone in my own silence, with the proof in my hand that my wife, the woman I once trusted with my worst fears, my smallest joys, my everything, had prepared for the day her ghost came home. And she didn't write, "I'm sorry." She wrote a warning. I left the house through the back door, the letter still in my coat pocket, my heartbeat louder than the wind brushing through the birch trees. I didn't slam the door. I didn't rush. I didn't make a sound. Because men like me, men who come back from the dead, learn to move like ghosts. And tonight I was one. But something had shifted in me. That note, it rewired something I didn't know could still break. Before that, I was confused, suspicious, hollow, sure. But now I was angry. Quietly, deeply, bitterly angry. Not the kind you scream into pillows with. The kind that sinks in your gut like cement and waits. I didn't go back to the motel. Not yet. I drove. For hours. No direction. No plan. Just asphalt and gasoline fumes. I thought maybe I'd end up at a bar, but alcohol felt like a trap. I thought about crashing into a tree just to feel something sharp. Instead, I ended up parked outside the house where my mother used to live. She's dead now. Stroke. I wasn't there when it happened. Didn't even know until a month after the funeral. Lorelei never told me. Of course she didn't. The house was boarded up now, for sale, a crumbling foreclosure sign hanging sideways on the fence. I sat there with my forehead on the steering wheel, gripping the letter, and thought about what I was supposed to do now. Was I meant to disappear again? Crawl back into whatever corner of the world I came from and let them keep living the fantasy? Or was I supposed to knock on her door and watch her eyes go wide as the man she thought was ashes stepped into her kitchen? But before I could answer that, something strange happened. I was scrolling through my phone. An old burner I had picked up under a fake name, still logged into one of my abandoned social media accounts. I hadn't posted since before the fire, before the crash, before the death certificate. I thought it was dead space. A graveyard of photos no one looked at anymore. But I had a message. From 2 days ago. No name. No profile pic. Just the words. "You don't look dead anymore." I froze. My hands went cold. My thumb hovered over the screen, unsure if I should open the full message. I clicked it anyway. There was a link. An unlisted video. The title. Harlan Greaves, seen in Ridgefield. My breath stopped. I tapped it. The video opened on grainy surveillance footage from what looked like a gas station. The camera zoomed in. My face. My damn face. I was standing next to my car, fumbling for change, looking like a man who hadn't slept in weeks, which I hadn't. The date stamp was from yesterday. Someone had filmed me, tracked me, uploaded it, sent it. But who? I checked the profile again. Blank. Deleted. I sat there, suddenly aware of how exposed I'd been. No gloves. No mask. No thought of being watched. I was supposed to be the one observing from the shadows, but now, someone had flipped the lens. Then another thought hit me like ice water down my spine. What if Lorelei didn't write that note? What if someone else did? What if there was a third person in this story? One who knew I'd come back. One who had waited longer than even she had. And what if the real betrayal hadn't even started yet? I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even lie down. I sat on the floor of the motel room with my back against the mini fridge, the television off, and the video on repeat. I watched myself, or the shell of myself, walking across the screen in that surveillance clip, over and over, the timestamp blinking like a metronome of doom. The angle was too clean, too well-centered. Someone wanted me to know they saw me. Someone wanted me to know I'd been seen. And I couldn't shake that message. You don't look dead anymore. That wasn't curiosity. That was warning. The next morning, I drove to the Ridgefield County Clerk's office. The same place Lorelei used to work. I walked in wearing sunglasses, my hood up, and a fake name on the visitor badge. My beard and the scar along my cheek made me look different enough, but not unrecognizable. I kept my head down and pretended to be someone looking up old property records. In truth, I was there for something else, something I couldn't ignore anymore. I needed to see my death certificate. I gave a false story. Said I was writing a book about local identity fraud cases and wanted to reference the legal paperwork involved in mistaken deaths. They hesitated at first, but a $100 processing fee pushed the file through faster than usual. When the folder landed on the desk in front of me, I opened it like it might bleed. There it was. Death certificate, Harlan Howard Greaves. Time of death, Cause of death, vehicle fire. Remains unidentifiable. Identification method, wallet, wedding ring, dental match, inconclusive but consistent. Signed by the county medical examiner, and my eyes froze. One more signature at the bottom. Next of kin confirmation, Lorelei May Greaves. But underneath hers another one. Witness signature, Jason R. Ellison. I blinked. Jason signed off too. That didn't make sense. He wasn't family. He wasn't even supposed to be close to me. Lorelei swore up and down that they only got close after my death. But his signature was dated 6 days before my funeral. Why would he be involved in confirming my death? And then, below the signatures, was something I never expected to see. A line marked, Executor of Estate Authorization. Signed in handwriting I hadn't seen in years. Mine. My signature. My actual, full name written in ink. Perfect. Slanted the way I used to do when I was nervous. It wasn't forged. It wasn't copied. It was real. But I never signed that. I was in a hospital bed in Mexico, half my face burned, learning how to walk again. I hadn't touched a pen, let alone confirmed legal documents. Yet there it was. My signature giving permission for Lorelei to handle the will, the house, the finances, and all remaining assets. All signed. All approved. All processed. Which means only one thing. Someone had me long enough to make me sign. Someone had access to me, or at least to my identity, in those missing weeks before I came to in that underground clinic. Someone helped make Harlan Greaves legally disappear and made sure the paperwork looked perfect. I stumbled out of the records office like the ground had tilted. Either I had been unconscious and manipulated, or someone else had been me. And now the message made more sense than ever. You don't look dead anymore. Because maybe someone else has been living as me all along. By the time I got back to the motel, I was sweating through my jacket. Not from the heat. From fear. The kind that settles into your spine and pulses there like a second heartbeat. I stared at that signature over and over in my mind. The slant. The pressure on the H. The loop in the G. It was mine. Undeniably mine. But I didn't write it. I paced the room for hours, running circles in my own thoughts. Was it done while I was unconscious? Were my hands moved, my fingers guided? Or was there someone who could mimic me well enough to pass scrutiny? Someone who'd studied me, practiced me, worn me like a costume? That's when I remembered something. Back during my short-lived time as a volunteer paramedic, a guy I worked with, Nick, once told me about a scam where veterans were used as financial ghosts. If you can fake a military record and find someone declared dead overseas, he said, you've got yourself a clean slate with benefits, pity, and no questions. I never thought about it again until now. What if my disappearance hadn't just been convenient for Lorelei? What if it was planned? What if someone knew I was off the grid, vulnerable, and practically invisible, and decided to become me? The person sending those messages, the one who filmed me at the gas station. Maybe they weren't just watching. Maybe they were protecting their investment. Maybe I had wandered too close to the life they'd stolen, and now I was a liability. I opened my laptop and searched for anything tied to my social security number, military service, or VA benefits. Most of it returned unavailable or restricted. I tried using aliases. Nothing. But then, deep in a back-channel search tool I had from my old days working emergency logistics, I found something. A hospital bill, filed 6 months after my death, in my name, from a psychiatric rehabilitation center in Colorado. My blood froze. I clicked it. It listed a 30-day inpatient stay for Harlan Greaves under PTSD and amnesia recovery. The address on the file wasn't mine. The emergency contact was listed as Jason Ellison. The insurance coverage was through a policy I never opened. The date of birth matched mine. The signature at the bottom? Also mine. I sat back slowly, hands trembling on the keyboard. This wasn't just insurance fraud or identity theft. This was life theft. They didn't just let me go missing. They replaced me with someone willing to pretend they'd survived as me, collect the benefits, reset the story, and feed Lorelei whatever lies she needed to hear to believe it. Or maybe she already knew. Maybe they built the lie together. And maybe I wasn't just back to haunt them. Maybe I was about to destroy whatever new version of me they'd invented. Because the truth was no longer buried. It was alive, walking, spending, smiling, breathing my name like it belonged to them. And I wanted it back. All of it. It happened in a parking lot. Not in a courtroom. Not in a fire. Not in some messy, dramatic confrontation that would have made headlines. Just a parking lot behind a bakery where Lorelei picked up her custom birthday cakes. It was early, the sky still soft, sun not quite over the rooflines. She stepped out of her car, holding her phone, probably texting him. I stepped forward, out from between two parked trucks, and she stopped mid-step. For a long second, she didn't move. Her eyes ran over me like I was an old painting she forgot she'd seen before. Familiar, uncomfortable, too real. Her hand dropped the phone. It clattered softly onto the asphalt. A breeze pushed her hair sideways, and still, she didn't say a word. So I did. I found the note. Her face didn't change. I know about the fake hospital records, the insurance, the signature, Jason, all of it. Still silence. I took another step. You could have just left. You didn't have to make me disappear. Finally, she blinked. You were supposed to be gone. You were already halfway gone before the fire. I just let the rest happen. It wasn't an apology, but it wasn't a lie. I could have yelled, demanded answers, justice, revenge, but none of it would have undone what happened. None of it would have rebuilt the years lost or unburned the body they buried in my name. I don't want the house, I said. I don't want the money. I'm not coming back to ruin you. Her lip trembled. She looked smaller than I remembered. Not evil, just broken in a way I used to overlook. Then why are you here? She whispered. And I told her, to tell you that I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve to move on. I walked away before she could speak again. 3 months later, I stood on a bluff in northern Oregon, overlooking the ocean, holding the only thing I had left that felt like truth, my name, carved into a piece of driftwood I'd found and sanded down with my own hands. Harlan Greaves. Alive. Not stolen. Not erased. Just mine. I didn't go back to Ridgefield. I didn't look for Lorelei again. I changed my name legally. Something new. Something mine. I took a job restoring old cabins. Something about giving broken things a second life made sense to me. The days were quiet. Peaceful. I made coffee in the mornings and took walks without looking over my shoulder. Sometimes I still woke up in a sweat, expecting flames. But less and less each week. And one day, in a small bookstore near the coast, I met a woman named Mira. She asked about the scar on my cheek and didn't flinch when I told her the truth. She didn't ask me who I used to be. She just said, I'm glad you're here now. So am I. Because for the first time in years, I am.